What's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to all the new subscribers that were here last couple nights ago for the live commentary I did. Had a great time. It was cool. It was fun, but it was just way too long. I can never do two cards that long again. I was tired. You guys that were here, some of you guys were like, "Yo, appreciate you for still hanging in there, man. It was a long day. I did the 3 hours for the DAZN World Boxing Super Series card. I did 6 hours for the Jermell Charlo pay-per-view fight. It was just too long of a card. I know that they wanted to break it up and make it a double header because they didn't want to fight right after one after another like they did when Charlo fought Harrison the first time and the other Charlo for Matt Korobov. So I understand that, but it was just too long, and then we didn't really get any knockouts aside of the Casemiro fight, which was the very first fight. Outside of that, the fights were just long and draining. All right, so we was there 6 hours, an hour intermission. It was crazy. All right, so I'm never doing that, like two long cards again. That was too long, but I still had a good time with you guys. All right, so shout out to everyone that's new here. So look, before we get started, Jermell Charlo, Jeison Rosario, a lot of people are saying that Rosario took a dive. I don't believe it. If you hear me say that, I'm not going to say that because I don't believe it. I don't believe that was a dive. I thought it was weird. You guys saw me live. I thought it was weird. I was shocked at the way he fell and the way he was reacting while he was on the ground. It looked like he had a seizure. His stomach was bouncing up and down. But I do believe that he was in real pain. I know it was only from a jab. We've seen plenty of people get knocked down by jabs, especially to the body. We've seen it happen plenty of times. But the way that Rosario reacted, I just don't think that was a flop. Jamel landed a big shot earlier, a few rounds earlier, which actually hurt Rosario and had him dazed walking back to his corner. I feel like if he wanted to take a dive and lose the fight, he would have done it there instead of flopping around off of a jab a couple rounds later. All right, so I don't believe it was a flop. I think it was weird. Some people were in the comments trying to explain it, basically saying that he had spasms and stuff like that. I'm no doctor. I have no expertise in any of that stuff, but I don't believe that it was a flop. I don't believe it. Some people believe it. That's on them. I just don't. And I'm not saying that dives don't happen in the sport because I do think some dives do happen in the sport. But we see some pretty weird knockouts. Josh Taylor got a knockout earlier that night. With a body shot that looked weird as well. Okay, it was a really sneaky body shot. I'm surprised the guy went down and he was out from it, but it happens. It's a part of the sport, and it is what it is. It was a legit win. It was a third knockdown in the fight, and it is what it is. All right. So moving forward, or reviewing the fight, I think Jeison Rosario is not the first to expose some of Jamel's holes. All right, he does have holes in his game, but he's sticking to his plan. Even in the Tony Harrison fight, a lot of people were, it was split. A lot of people that felt that Jamel got robbed. A lot of people felt that Tony Harrison actually really won. And going into the second fight, I felt like Tony Harrison was winning the majority of the rounds. I think he was up, even though it was very close and competitive. I didn't feel like Jamel did anything or did much new in the rematch. Okay, but Jamel, this is his game. This is his game. And he's not going to change much because it's working for him and he's getting knockouts. All right. This is just the way he boxes, and it's fine being critical of him. I'm going to be critical of him at times if I see holes in his game. But this is just the way he fights now, and I know he's coming up and loading on a lot of things. He's not setting up the shots right. I get it. I see it. I see all the things you guys see. But I think the fact that he's very fast, very, very violent puncher, the way he steps in, the angles that where he's throwing his punches, they're really powerful. They're really sneaky, and it works for him. He's beating guys that are more technically sound, that's doing everything correctly. All right, he's doing it, and he's going to keep doing it. I'm not going to be here saying, what I think he should do. There's plenty of things. At least with his jab, he has a good jab. I wish he used it. I wish he used it more. Okay, just to set up those shots instead of stepping in and just loading it up on everything. Throwing wide shots, hooking. I wish he stepped in and set the punches up better, especially Rosario. It seemed like once he started going to the body a little bit, I think even in that previous round before the knockout, I think he started going to the body a little bit more. I just think he would do that more consistently. From the opening bell, just work on him and Derrick James. I wish they worked a little bit more on setting up the shots. He comes in, he steps in with that tight guard, and he's loading up on everything, and it's been working for him. I don't know if it's going to work against everybody, and I'll speak more on that soon, but it's been working for him, and he's been fighting good, solid opponents. Tony Harrison, Jeison Rosario, he's fought Austin Trout, he's fought Manas Monterosian, he's fought like a lot of guys at the division at this point. John Jackson was good. He's fighting good fighters at 154. All right, and he's getting the wins, and that's all that really matters. He lost one time, and he avenged the loss by knocking his opponent out. It is what it is. All right. He avenged his loss, and J-Rock lost two fights, got stopped twice, didn't go into a rematch. He didn't rematch Rosario. He didn't rematch Jermell Charlo. I know I think he had to get surgery after the Rosario fight because of the cut, or I'm not sure what it was. But he didn't rematch his loss. He didn't avenge his loss, and Jamal eventually moved up. The same thing with Jarrett Hurd, who loses to J-Rock, didn't follow up with the rematch, didn't try to win his belt back. Jamal lost, but at least Jamel lost. At least he got his belt back. All right, so you got to give him much respect. But Rosario was doing his thing. A lot of people didn't like my breakdown of the fight or didn't like my prediction to the fight. A lot of people think that I wasn't really giving Rosario any credit. It's not that I wasn't giving him credit. I knew he was a tough opponent. I knew he had a lot of power. But I just didn't see anything in his game that I thought wouldn't be, he didn't show me anything that I thought Jamel wouldn't be able to handle. With the list of fighters that Jamel fought up to this point, I didn't think Rosario brought anything that different. I liked how he attacked the body. I liked the pressure he was bringing. Jamel at times didn't seem like he could really get to his guard. And I thought Rosario was definitely more consistent. I think the knockdowns was definitely saving Jamel. But that's part of the sport, You win a couple rounds, but if your opponent is knocking you down in between those rounds, the fight is still competitive, So, look, I thought Jamel did what he was supposed to do. He did what I expected him to do. At some point, I thought he was going to stop Rosario. And I believe I called it before the 9th round. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. All right? Now, moving on. When we're looking at the opponents that he has left, I don't know what's going on with J-Rock. I don't know. I seen his tweet. I'm expecting him to climb himself back up to a championship level at some point. He didn't do his rematch with Rosario, so I don't know what route he's going to take. J-Rock is an incredible boxer. I think he's very, very talented, but he's just too chinny. And if he were to fight Jamel, I could see the same thing happening with what happened with Tony Harrison. Harrison's another very talented boxer. Their technical ability are really top notch to me. It's just that both of them are just too chinny, and I expect them both. I expect J-Rock to get caught by Charlo if they were to actually fight. All right. Jarrett Hurd, even when Jarrett Hurd was undefeated, and I've said this on this channel, Jarrett Hurd was a tough dude, durable dude, good pressure fighter, but he gets hit too much. And I think Jamel would really hurt him. I think Jamel would really, really his style. I just don't think Hurd has the defense. I think when he first started, and once he started like getting some recognition, like when he beat Frank Larson and everything, I think Jamel was fighting. Jarrett Hurd was fighting more on his back foot. He wasn't just coming forward, doing a lot of punches and getting hit a lot. I think at that point, I liked him a little bit better. But once he started collecting these wins by bringing the pressure and wins against Austin Trout, Lara, and Tony Harrison, I think that style was good for those fighters, not good for Jamel. I think Jamel would hurt him bad, and if he doesn't stop him, I expect Jamel to win by a unanimous decision. All right. Now, Patrick Chisera has a title. I don't know if he's gonna defend it soon. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm not sure, but I think he has I think he has a good skill set. I was very impressed by his win against Carlos Adames. He fought a really powerful, young, undefeated prospect who gave him a lot of trouble, who had a lot of power, but he was able to tough it out and win the match. All right, he did well. He's a really tough, durable dude. Showed a lot of heart. It's just that I just think Jamel is on a different level. I think Chisera does have some skills. He can move well. He's a southpaw. He's a bit tricky, but I think Jamel would overwhelm him as well. Okay, and beat him if they were to fight next or whatever. That would be undisputed because Chisera has the one last title that Jamel doesn't currently have. All right. Now, last but not least, let's talk about the two fighters that I think Jamel would have issues with. Two completely different fighters. The two fighters that just fought each other recently, Brian Castano and Erislandy Lara. All right, those are the two fighters that I think would give Jamel the toughest challenge out of everybody that's left at 154. Okay, Castano, we're going to see a lot that we saw with Rosario in this fight. Okay, he's going to be coming forward, a lot of pressure. All right, throwing bodies, throwing combinations, throwing body shots. All right, he's a beast. If you haven't seen it, check out Brian Castano. Check out his fight with Lara. Check out his fight with Derenchenko. Okay, very close war that they had in the World Series of Boxing. Wasn't pro, but it was a pro fight. The only difference is it doesn't go on your pro record. But that was a professional fight. All right, it was a while back, several years ago. But check out that fight if you haven't seen Brian Castano. He's a beast. Gave Derenchenko all kinds of problems. All right, check him out. He's definitely an issue for Jermell Charlo. I think he's able to do what Rosario did, go to the body, get Charlo against the ropes, throw flurries, combinations and everything. Good angles. He's pretty flat-footed for the most part, but he can actually move. He can actually fight on the back foot as well. He can switch it up. If you watch the Derenchenko fight, you'll see a lot of that in that fight because Derenchenko was the one coming forward in that fight. So he could counter a bit. But if he were to fight Jamel, he would try to crowd Jamel similar to like the way that Rosario was doing. He's not as powerful as Rosario. Okay, Rosario hits very, very, very hard, but he can crack. And You know, like I said, he has great combinations and everything. I think Jamel will have a very, very hard time, especially after watching a fight with Rosario. He will have a hard time, difficult time against Castaño. Also, Erislandy Lara was a completely different fighter, left-handed sharpshooter, vet. All right, he has experience. He was part of Jamel and Jamal's team. He's still with Ronnie Shields. I know Jamel went off with Derek James, but I believe Lara is still with Ronnie Shields. You know, there's videos out there of him sparring with Jamal. They're pretty cool and everything, but Lara has also always kind of entertained the possibility of fighting a Jermell Charlo, and I think he would be his shoe for Jamel. Some of the holes that Jamel has in his game, I think Lara could definitely expose some of those holes, and with his timing. All right. I think Jamel definitely has a better chance of beating Lara now. If this fight was about 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't think Jamel had much of a chance of beating Lara. But right now, Lara doesn't have the legs that he used to have. All right, he doesn't move nearly as much at all. He kind of has been fighting guys in the pocket lately, you know, standing his ground and just shooting that left hand. He has a beautiful straight left. But outside of that, he doesn't have much outside of that. You know, doesn't have much weapons. He has a good right hook, but that money shot is that straight left hand, you know, and the timing of it. You know, he's very, 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 very accurate, that punch. He has good defense. He's good at measuring fighters and keeping them, you know, out of range and everything. But I think Jamel, it's a good time to fight Lara, but I still believe that Lara has a good chance of beating him. Not as good of a chance, but I think that would be a 50-50 fight if that were to go down, you know. Plus, Lara has proven that he's very durable, you know, having a fight with Hurd, Angulo, Castaño, guys that really put a lot of pressure on him. He was able to overwhelm, you know, I mean, not to get overwhelmed by these fighters and go the distance with these fighters and even win these fights, some of these fights. All right, guys always try to pressure Lara. Jamel would definitely try to pressure him, but Jamel is coming in loading up on big shots. He's not throwing a lot of punches. He's actually just kind of stepping in, looking to land bombs, all right? But if he can't land those bombs, and if he can't, like, you know, if he can't really get in and get the timing right, and Lara's just sniping him on the outside, I can see Jamel losing that fight, you know, especially if he can't hurt Lara, you know. But he has the power to do it, you know, we'll see. But those are the two that I think are the most dangerous for Jamel. Neither one of them hold titles at this point. I think Castaño might have a piece. Either him or Lara has a piece of the WBA. I'm not sure. Should have checked. But I think those two are the toughest opponents for Charlo at the 154 division right now. All right. So that's my whole breakdown of Jermell Charlo and his future. I hope he wins and become undisputed. You know, I know at some point he's probably got to finish off his career at 160, but I would like to see him become undisputed, go for undisputed, and actually defend his titles, even if he can. You know, I think that would be a great achievement. You know, a lot of guys moved up in 160. Yes, 154 was tougher a few years back when you had Canelo there, you had Cotto still around, you had Andre still there, Jermell Charlo was still there. You know, Lara was more in his prime. Trout was more in his prime. You know, but Charlo did win a lot of fights against a few of those guys there, and you know, he's done his thing, and I hope he becomes. I'm rooted for him to become undisputed. You know, I think he's overall right now, as far as resume and everything, I do think that he's the best at 154. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Pretty long video, but really wanted to get this all down and talk about the future of this division. All right, So I'm gonna do a video on Jamal. Be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.